We continue our breaking news coverage of the flurry of decisions issued by the Supreme Court as it wraps its 2024 to 2025 session. Today, a major ruling on President Trump's use of an executive order to end birthright citizenship in the U.S. We begin there with CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez. Camilo, thank you for joining us today. Tell us about some of the real-world ramifications of today's rulings.
Good morning, Mugo. Well, this could very well prove to be a major legal victory for the Trump administration's aggressive efforts to change long-standing federal policy, including on immigration, because as you know, Mugo, because we have discussed these rulings on multiple occasions, nationwide injunctions have become a major legal obstacle for the administration's immigration agenda, with judges across the country blocking many of its efforts, including obviously on its attempt to deny birthright citizenship to the children of immigrants who are here illegally, and also on temporary visas. But this ruling, which of course curbs, curtails, and limits these nationwide injunctions by federal judges, could really pave the way for the administration, Mugo, to follow through on many of these policy changes. The caveat, of course, in this specific case is that the legal question about whether or not birthright citizenship and the administration's attempt to upend the long-standing interpretation of that is legal and constitutional is still to be decided and will continue to be litigated in federal courts across the country. That is not a settled question, but obviously now the Department of Homeland Security, state and other federal agencies can actually implement and at least release the guidance on how they would enforce this order across the country. Mugo.
Of course. And we want to take another live look at the White House right now, because we are waiting to hear from President Donald Trump after this ruling from the Supreme Court. As soon as that news conference begins, we'll bring it to you right here on CBS News 24/7. Let's get back to you, Camilo, because again, that's the live shot there at the White House. But let's get back to you, Camilo. I want to ask you about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That's the man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador and then brought back here, but then he's still being held by the U.S. government. He was only charged with human smuggling after he was deported to El Salvador. What's the basis for those charges?
Well, before we get to that, Mugo, I just want to alert our audiences on a big development in this case, because we actually expected Kilmar Abrego Garcia to be released from federal criminal custody today pending that criminal trial and to be detained subsequently by immigration authorities or ICE pending a deportation potentially to a third country. But now his lawyers have asked the federal district court in Nashville overseeing that criminal case to keep their client in federal criminal custody for the time being, while the federal government clarifies its intentions on whether or not it actually intends to deport Mr. Abrego Garcia to a third country before the criminal trial starts, or if it intends to keep him in ICE detention while that criminal trial is adjudicated in Nashville. So that is a big question. The lawyers are concerned, Mugo, that the administration could be planning to circumvent in many ways the criminal trial and just remove him to a third country without actually having that case in Nashville completed. That case, going back to your original question, Mugo, centers around allegations that Mr. Abrego Garcia allegedly transported and smuggled undocumented immigrants from Latin America into the U.S., that he transported some of them from the Texas border to Maryland, where he lived with his U.S. citizen child and wife, and that he did so multiple times, in the process breaking anti-smuggling laws in the U.S., Mugo.
Okay. Camilo Montoya-Galvez, thank you so much for that breakdown. Appreciate it.